Hello, my name is Shirley Self, and I'm here to talk astrology. Tonight, I wanted to talk about the death of George Floyd. A common event, the death of a black man, the hand of the cops, but a very momentous event, and causing, God willing, a lot of change in this world. So here's George Floyd's solar chart. And by solar chart, I mean this isn't. He wasn't probably wasn't born at dawn, but you can cast a solar chart so that because the sun is the most important. It's not a planet. Most important energy in your chart, and it's all about the sun, the will. And so when you put the sun in the first house there, you're talking about the sun and what it has, what it possesses, and how it thinks, and what its home is like, etc. And it has to do with the sun, and not particularly the ascendant, which is the way you present yourself in the world. So, but this is very handy, and if you can't, don't have a birth time, do a solar chart, because it is, well, not. It won't give you timing and stuff like that, but it will tell you what's going on. So let's look at Mr. Floyd's chart here. He was a Libra, at 21 Libra here, conjunct Uranus at 23 Libra here. And what's interesting to me is that this Sun Uranus is in trine to Donald Trump's Sun Uranus, and so this too was a contrary man. But the difference between him and a big one of the differences between him and the Donald Trump is that the Donald Trump has Uranus leading his sun. It is the Oriental planet. There is when it is following, and so that means that the Uranus comes as a reaction to what happens to the sun. This rebellion is more a result than a cause of whatever growth to the sun or whatever. So Donald is a disruptor, while George Floyd had Pluto leading Oriental, leading his sun. And it's really interesting because people who have Pluto Oriental are make an impact on the world. They transform the world for good or ill. Greta Thunberg, the young woman who is fighting for our survival, has a Pluto leading her sun. And I pray that her Pluto holds up, because we really need that kind of strength in our own for our benefit. So what else do I have about Mr. Floyd I wanted to tell you? Okay, his Chiron opposes the sun. This is very difficult. It was one of the indications of the obstacles he has faced in his life, is that the world itself, relationship itself, is a wounding to him. And why? Well, he's got a Saturn in Cancer. Saturn in Cancer sucks big time. It's in its fall, and it is, or detriment. I think it's in its detriment. It's opposite its rulership of Capricorn, and it really damages one's emotional comfort. It really damages your ability to find nourishment and comfort and joy virtually in the world. Saturn in Cancer is very, very difficult, and George Floyd has the South Node conjunct that Saturn, giving it a very negative twist on a very negative, already negative planet. And so this Saturn has a lot to do. Look at its relationship to the sun. It's in an 8th house relationship to the sun, and so it reiterates this wounding because he's in a hopeless situation. He has not got a lot of hope in his world. He's got a lot of friends. Look at his Jupiter Jupiter's in Aquarius. He knows a lot of people and is known. That doesn't mean he's famous, but he has a community. A community. So, the Saturn, let's see its relationships. The Saturn has relationship to Venus. That is called an inconjunct. And look how tight it is. This Venus-Neptune here is, and it's ruled by the Jupiter. And it's very hard for the Sun to, probably the guy loved sports and maybe even dancing. He might have been a good dancer. The Venus and Neptune, that combination, tends to like to move its body. But it's at an inconjunct to the Saturn. So this is a very, he's denied an awful lot. He's denied a certain amount. He's denied the ability to express his talents. This is a second house relationship to the Sun here. And so that talks about the Sun's talents. And he has talents, or had talents, but they were denied by the world. There was not opportunity for him to fully express himself in the beautiful way he could have expressed himself. And this Saturn connection here is also squared to Pluto. Where's Pluto? Right here. And look how tight that is. That's called partile because it's perfect. It's 10 seconds off. And so that along with this connection here, shows a dangerous, he lives in his life is in danger. His life is in danger. And it was because he was murdered. Okay. Let's see, what else do I have to say about okay, well, let's move on to the man who caused the death of George Floyd. Murders is really, hard word for me. I have a Pluto opposite the Sun. I'm touchy about these things. Okay, so here, this is Officer Chauvin. And I keep playing with the Chauvin. A chauvinist is named after a man who, in a play, was an avid devotee of Bonaparte beyond all reason. And so I thought, well, this is an avid devotee of something, and it did go beyond all reason. So Mr. Chauvin has also a Saturn in Cancer. Saturn in Cancer really, all those things that the Cancer is supposed to do for you, is to emotionally commit to other people, emotionally care about other people. You throw Saturn in that mix, and it just, it's very difficult to feel comfortable in the world. It's very difficult to ever feel comforted or fed or fully loved. Donald Trump has a Saturn in Cancer, and it's conjunct Venus, which is odd in its own way. That's why he calls women nasty. You think about a Saturn-Venus conjunction in Cancer. And Cancer also rules food, so women are nasty to him. Well, quit licking us. So let's talk about Officer Chauvin. Look, he's also, his moon and all day, even though this is only a solar chart and we don't know where that sun was, but all day that moon was in Scorpio. And when you put it at this, when the solar chart gives it right there closely conjunct the North Node, but the chances are very good because the moon casts such a broad connection. 20, or it fully occupies 20 degrees, 10 degrees on the other side. So the chances are really good that moon is what you would call conjunct this, the North Node, I'm sorry, the North Node. The moon and its opposite, George Floyd's moon, which maybe you notice was in Taurus, and it was probably in Taurus. I think it was in Taurus all that day. So it was somewhere in Taurus, somewhere opposing this guy's moon, and I think that's really interesting, especially when this Officer Chauvin's South Node here is in Taurus. Taurus Scorpio nodes, I really think they've got to be the most difficult, because it's greedy graspingness on both ends, you know, and you have to learn to give to others, give of yourself to others with the North Node in Scorpio, and quit grasping and needing and being possessive. And this man, George Floyd, was a 17. And that's interesting because the 17s have an issue with death. They do. 3 and 17, if you'll remember the moon phases, 3 and 17 and 13 and 27 all have to deal in some way, some really personal way, with the fact of death. And so it's interesting to me that Mr. Floyd was a 17. Mr. Chauvin, Officer Chauvin, is a 19. And the 19s, if you'll remember, are they are the power phase of the third house. And they are wielding power out in the world. Officer Chauvin should have been wielded in a bigger venue and quit intimidating people, because that's the problem with the moon phase 19, is that they're up in the air quarter, and what they're supposed to be occupied with is dealing with things that are going on with the world, dealing with new ideas, new ideas, bringing change into the world, so that we kind of try to keep up with ourselves, so that the government tries to keep up with ourselves, because those people are that is the quarter that is preoccupied with government. And the moon phase 19 is right in the middle of it. It is the power phase in that one, quarter. And like I say, when their energy is such that they need to spread it over, you know, run a big business, or create a new movement, or do something out in the world, save dogs, do something that is forward-thinking and a challenge, because for a moon phase 19, dealing one-to-one with people, they just run over them. They're human bulldozers. They just run over them. They're a menace. They can be. A lot of our young men who mow down other people with their Tommy guns are of the rectangle of power, and a 19 is overly represented among them. So, what do we have here? This Officer Chauvin, notice his sun is at a critical degree, 29 Pisces. The thing about 29 degrees, and especially sun, is you feel like you're right on the edge of a cliff, and you know you can only go forward. So it can be it's not comfortable. Okay, and he's got a Saturn in where is he? Saturn, there it is, in Cancer, and so that's not comfortable. What else was I going to point out about him? The Saturn is square Jupiter. Where is Jupiter? Saturn is square Jupiter. And this is a pretty tight square. So his Saturn is very busy, and not a comfortable. Moon phase 19 is not comfortable. power is newly attained, and they often shoot themselves in the foot because they don't. It's almost like being given a large weapon and not knowing where to point it, or much less how to put on a safety. So these people can be loose cannons because of that insecurity. There's a tremendous amount of power, but they're balanced by a tremendous amount of insecurity, by the sheer newness of their powers. So, so the square to Jupiter, yeah, I wanted to talk about that. Mark Edmund Jones, a man who is worth reading, even though he's not easy reading, if you're into astrology, he calls that a last-ditch lifetime because, well, you think about it. Jupiter, the optimistic and outgoing, hopeful and loving in a way, enlightening in another way. Part of you is in direct conflict. Understand that it's not in opposition. An opposition comes from other people. Squares are in you. So his is in conflict, inner conflict with this feeling of, well, he wasn't fed right, he wasn't loved right, he wasn't made to feel secure in his power. Well, of course, 19s aren't secure in his power, but this is a really difficult one. So you can see why the man was over and over having to prove himself. And notice the Pluto, while it's not opposing the Sun, the Pluto, like I say, a Pluto opposing you is a hard time from other people. But it's over there in the 7th house of the solar chart, Pluto. And it's not connected to much with the Neptune. And the Neptune does not lend to clarity, and because the Neptune is in Sagittarius, not a lot of compassion. Neptune in Sagittarius is compassionate for those people. Well, they tend to be not compassionate across the board, although it's in fire. It's not helping this Pluto to know when to stop. So this is Mr. or ex-officer Chauvin. His Mercury is his planet. His Mercury is oriental, and Mercury in Pisces is not. It tends to concentrate on, because of where it is and according to the Sun, and the Sun also is in Pisces, and the Venus is in Pisces, is not helping the Sun have any self-confidence at all. It's very compensatory. It is in a good aspect to the nodes. It is in a trine to the nodes. We don't know. It looks right now that is an exact trine to the moon, but we don't know where that moon really is. So the Mercury is capable. This is not an impossible lifetime. The Mercury is capable, but it is it's in a very insecure man who's, like I say, busy trying to prove himself. His Mercury, it's interesting, his Mercury, the United States progressed Sun is at about 16 degrees Pisces right now. So you might say he spoke for us here when he killed this man. He said, this is what we do. This is us. Okay. What else did I want to tell you about? Mr. Chauvin. Okay, now this is the death chart. Oh, I didn't give you George Floyd's or Mr. Chauvin's. I don't know his first name. I heard it once. And anyway, Officer Chauvin's birth date, he was born 19 March 1976. And Mr. Floyd's birth date, he was born 14 October 1973. And this death chart is for 25th of May, 2020. And this one is at 9:25 p.m. because this is when George Floyd was pronounced dead. And it's really interesting that when you talk about making an impact on this world, this is a timed chart. When you look at the 7th house, those were the witnesses to this event. And they were also filming this event. And so this event, their ascendant is 2 degrees from the ascendant of the United States. Our ascendant is at 12 Sagittarius. The midheaven is in 7 Libra 44. Now, I notice the 7 degrees because that's the nodes of the United States are in the 7th degree of Aquarius, Leo. A 7th degree Leo is our north node, and it means we need to learn to love not only each other but other countries. Need to act in a loving way. That's the north node in Leo. So the midheaven is in the degree of the U.S. nodes, and so it resonates with our karma. This event resonates with our karma. The moon is conjunct the U.S. sun. The moon is at, now that doesn't count. Yes, it does count. This is a timed chart. I get confused. So the moon is conjunct the U.S. sun. The U.S. sun is at 13 degrees of Cancer. And the moon is over there saying, be careful. Be careful. But care was not taken. The sun is conjunct the United States Uranus, which is at, I think it's at 6 degrees. And the sun, this sun here is at 5 degrees, Gemini. And the Venus is conjunct the U.S. Mars, which is, the Mars is actually in the 22nd degree, and this one is in the 19th, and the Venus here is in the 19th degree. So they are conjunct. The Neptune in this chart is opposite the United States Neptune, and that for the United States makes and that's the Neptune here is the videos that were taken and broadcast shared. They were in the Neptune, and that's the Mars. There is the sharing of these communication, the house of communication. So this has got a Jupiter conjunct Pluto. Now, usually Jupiter will make it nice. It'll at least, it mitigates it. But this Jupiter sucks. It's at 27 degrees Capricorn, and that is in its fall. opposite its exaltation in Cancer. And what's interesting is that 27 degrees Capricorn is the United States Pluto, and 24 degrees, which is where the Pluto is here in this event chart, the 24 degrees is opposite the United States Mercury. So why this made an impact? Because it was filmed, it was shared, and it was timely. It was time to pay attention. The event chart and Mr. Chauvin and George Floyd all had Chiron in Aries. All woundings to the Mars, woundings to the, you might say, the male ego. And we're getting ready to have a Chiron return. Where is Chiron? Where are you, darling? There he is, right on the descendant. Right on the, I'm sorry, not the descendant, the IC. Right on the IC is Chiron. And that Chiron in Aries is, of course, in trine sextile to our Chiron in Aries, trine sextile to our own our nodes. So there's it flagged it poked every button. It hit our ascendant. It hit our Pluto. That acknowledgement. And Jupiter, one thing it did in this case, even though it sucks in Capricorn, the Jupiter made sure that their good came from it. And I pray that we continue, because the fight is not over. We've never finished the Civil War. And I think that's what our Chiron in Aries is all about, is our own, the natal Chiron for the United States is about 20 degrees Aries. And so we're due to have our Chiron return. Chiron moves slow, don't worry about it. It takes it 50 years to make a return. And so we're going to have one, but not until we've had a new moon. And the United States is going to have a new moon. It'll be our progressed sun. We'll have a new moon. It will be in the 20th degree of Pisces, and that new moon will be right on the descendant. And I think one of the things that will mean is how alone we are, how much we've lost, and how much we've lost, because not the same thing. So, and let me show you. This was when he was pronounced dead. At 9:25 p.m. But they worked on him for about an hour, trying to reverse their mistakes. And so this is actually, this might have been, I did it for 8:30, and I did it because about an hour. So I put his death at 8:30, and this is our Neptune. Is it 22 Virgo? And it's right there on the midheaven of this murder, public murder. South Node in Sagittarius, was ruled by this Jupiter. But the nodes, they're neither of them friendly to you. They kick ass both ends. But this one, the South Node, that's where you really hurt. The North Node, you can actually act and get moving. So that's why we're rioting in the streets. And rightly so. Rightly so. We have never finished the Civil War. It was waylaid by Another man whom they tried to impeach, another president they tried to impeach, Jackson, that was his name, Andrew Jackson, is that right? There are two Jacksons. Johnson, Andrew Johnson, sorry. And they tried to impeach him, and he was a vice president for Abraham Lincoln, and he virtually derailed Reconstruction. Absolutely did all he could to put the world back the way it was, even though slavery had been abolished. Domination by the whites had not. So, he came really close to being impeached, and our Donald Trump has become really close, not even close to being impeached. He's really beloved by certain idiots. Anyway, so that's why we're out in the streets. We're finishing the Civil War. The United States has that. It has Aries right on the IC, the fourth house. It also has Aries on the cusp of the fifth house, the children. And so this is motivated. The people are trying to finish the Civil War, but it's time the children are trying to save the world. All of that is Chiron and Aries. A wounding by and to one's ability to act, one's Mars, your male parts, your ego, your ability to act. So that Chiron in the fourth house of the United States speaks to the murder of the indigenous people, the theft of their land. They were wounded by war. And I think it's time for restitution. And I think the best restitution would be the revival of the world. And I think the people, Indian people, because there's so many of them are still close to the land, can be a real guide to us in that matter. Well, I pray you are well. And Mars is still retrograde and will be retrograde for during our election. And so we must continue to protest and to speak our minds. And for God's sake, vote. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe. Wear your masks. Love you. Bye-bye.